SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Midday Super Talk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
Well, we are here. We are 1 week away from the birth of the Savior. December 25th, Christmas. Man. I can't even believe I'm saying that, honestly. It has just flown by, as the saying goes, and pretty soon, once again, them zany legislators will be down there. Yeah, we look forward to that because you and I then spend many hours poring over the legislation so we can inform our fabulous audience of what's going on down there. That's all coming up. And honestly, as you know, Rhino, sometimes we inform the people that are down there what's going on.
Yeah, I thought when I got out of school I could stop studying.
Yeah, exactly. It just begins, huh? That's why many times I've always felt and said that on the show that the greatest takeaway, the most critical, most valuable takeaway from spending a little time in college there is learning how to learn. The mistake you make is, I know it all now. I got me in one of them degrees. No, you don't have squat. What you got is a license to go learn more. True story. The president went to the primetime television last night to deliver a rather feisty speech. I think he's frustrated that the polls show people aren't happy with the economic situation primarily. And in fact, the president polls north of 50% on only one issue, and that's immigration. So he spent most of the 18-minute speech discussing economic matters. And I think that's in an effort to get out in front of the Democrats in the midterms, who I think are trying to capture this narrative of affordability. And I don't know that anybody owns that narrative, but I think it's fair to say that Zoran Mondami kind of popularized it and injected it into our mainstream vernacular. And heck, he rode that narrative into office, Gracie Mansion, where the mayor lives in America's largest city. Really
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Why is that?
We're talking about the word affordability.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody coined a new word. It's a word that's been used by English language speakers for hundreds of years.
Agree. I think the caveat there is that it hasn't been such a popular word in political campaigns. It's when they focus on that, cost of living seems to be the phrase, I guess, that comes up more to describe that issue more than affordability. But it's like Mondami comes out and pronounces it, and it just caught fire. So the president delivered this address last night, again, mainly focused on the economy, which I think is what he should do. And he touted his accomplishments. And he made it very clear that, quote, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years. And so, of course, Rhino, anytime you deliver a speech or a speech is delivered by the president, the fact-checkers are going crazy after that. And I can't tell you the number of fact-checking reports I read after
the ones that were on vacation when Biden was in the White House.
That's right, and that's exactly right. That's the fundamental problem. You and I fact check what he said all the time, and I think that's appropriate. I don't care who the president is or what party they represent.
I mean, the dude's trying to say hello to people that have been dead for years in the audience, and that doesn't need a fact check.
That's so true. Right, the media overly friendly to him and
downright slobbering on the dude.
Permissive, shall we say, and who could forget? And see, that's the problem, isn't it? That we have short memories, especially in politics. But it wasn't that long ago he was conducting what few press conferences he would conduct with orchestrated and choreographed Q&As. Oh, let me see who I'm supposed to call on next. Remember that? And there would be some media plant in the audience that asked a question that the Biden administration wanted them to ask so that he could halfway bumble and stumble through some, I hesitate to call it answer because a response, because it was just a bunch of mishmash that made no sense. But my sense is from the president's speech last night, he's frustrated, almost a bit angry that people aren't acknowledging what he has described as a lot of successes. And here's what I think. With respect to just a theory here, try it out on you guys, or present it, that a lot of people are looking for prices to return to the pre-COVID period. And
I think that's a lot of it.
That ain't going to happen.
Nope.
And if it does, it's a bad thing, guys, because that means we're experiencing rampant deflation. That would be significant deflation. And you know what causes deflation more than anything? Unemployment. So we'd be looking at, to get back to 2019 prices, and that still probably wouldn't happen, we'd have double-digit unemployment. That'd be bad. Hell, you and I may be unemployed for all we know. So I think that expectations have to be tempered. Now, here's the why I think that's a problem. And why I think that's the dynamic that's at play here. Because it happened so dang fast. It wasn't like this kind of steady increase in inflation. It was 21. Goofy Biden has to put his mark on the economy, passing the stupid American Rescue Plan. And let's be honest, Rhino, we all celebrated. I'm talking about it here in the state of Mississippi, the cities, the counties that got a bunch of money because that's what it primarily funded. Everybody was happy. You got another stimulus payment. We got the enhanced subsidies in the ACA. It was just a bunch of giveaways and all kinds of other just dropping money out of helicopter, $1.9 trillion. And we had an economy that was recovering nicely when President Trump exited in 2020, recovering nicely and was about to get on its feet and get to where it was before COVID. But the Democrats politically couldn't have that. We can't possibly let things just play out with no action whatsoever. And they would attribute that, they being the voters, to the prior administration because we didn't do anything. We got to put our mark on it. Boom, here's $1.9 trillion. And then after that, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, Fed Chairman Jay Powell, numerous others who advised the president, not that I even think he was advisable, Joe Biden in this case, but they were kind of orchestrating that all on their own. Were telling us, don't worry about any inflation. That's just not going to happen. And then when it started rearing its head, it's transitory. Then remember what happened. A short year and 3 months later, boom, 9%. It happened in a very compressed period of time. It hit us like a ton of bricks. That wasn't that long ago. So it's not like with this current president where we're seeing prices moderate, inflation is getting under control. We got a new report this morning we'll share with you in a minute. I just think it wasn't that long ago that people remember what prices were like on so much of what they consume. Wasn't that long ago. Wasn't like 10 years ago. It was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I think that's what the problem is, and people think, well, certainly we can get back to that. No, what the president's doing is growing the economy, boosting the economy. That, in turn, is boosting wages, and wages are outpacing inflation, so-called real wages. A small amount right now, but we're just getting started. And that's the difference between this administration and the prior administration, where for the first 3 years, you and I talked about it many times, wages were not keeping up with inflation. So people were upside down, had less money to spend, less money in their pockets, and that's what happened. That's what the president talked about. Coming right back, we got Drake Bassett at 11:05.
Picture this, you're on.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Welcome back, everyone. Simple Minds, what a great tune, great video. I, of course, especially like the drum sequence there is really, really good. Very creative. Good stuff there. Thank you, Rhino. So, we'll get to the president's speech here in a minute, but I got to point this out because it's something you and I both support. We've talked about many times, and I'm proud to see the president's media and technology company taking the lead here, and that's nuclear fusion, the absolute holy grail of energy. This just makes all the energy concerns go away, right? If we could perfect this and drive the cost of it down, make it practical and viable, something that scientists have been working on for decades, right?
Oh, yeah.
Since fission, which is what we currently have.
Which is still the most practical way to get energy.
Right. But
instead of clear-cutting a forest and covering a mountainside with solar panels or filling up the scenery along the beach or in West Texas with unrecyclable fan blades.
Often those acts performed by those who tell us that we got to walk everywhere and can't fly on airplanes, right? And can't eat meat and all that kind of crazy crap.
Yeah,
so
those people are somehow and for some reason terrified of these, I guess to their comprehension level, these magic rocks that boil water.
That's right. Well, nuclear fission, of course, something that was perfected back in the 40s. Worked on for even a long period before then. I guess perfected in that.
It was first accomplished.
Yeah.
By man in the 40s.
In the.
Still don't think we've quite perfected.
Well, okay, that's fair enough. How about apply it? That's probably a better way to. You're right. There's a lot of work to do to perfect it even further, but with the nuclear bomb, right? That dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was all made possible by nuclear fission. So now we have fusion. Fusion, again, been the dream of nuclear scientists and physicists for a long time. Well, the president's social media company is merging. I don't know if it's a merger or an acquisition. Doesn't matter. They're combining with TAE Technologies, a fusion power company. They just announced it this morning. An all-stock. It's a merger. Thank you. I just read that in the business report here. Valued at more than $6 billion. This is transformational for Trump Media, the parent company. So Trump's enterprise here taking the lead in this new frontier. I say new frontier from a commercialization and a practical application of nuclear fusion. Now I'm getting confused. Fusion. So help me out, Rhino. Fission, we're splitting, and fusion, we're combining. Is that right? Essentially,
to make a heavier atom.
Yeah. This is cool. So the
fission is orders of magnitude easier than fusion.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we don't have any
Fission
commercial.
is literally rocks glow make water boil.
Yeah.
Water boil makes steam. Steam turns turbine. Turbine makes electricity. Fusion is, all right, we got these giant magnets in a certain sequence that we power with a ton of energy themselves, that we have to have at a certain temperature to force matter into itself so that it becomes heavier matter and creates energy.
There you go.
A little bit tougher to pull that one off.
And that's why we don't have any practical
That's why
or
fusion
commercial.
bombs were basically a nuclear bomb impacting nuclear material to create the fusion reaction.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, it looks like the president's companies, at least, are taking this bold step, making significant investments, but again, combining with a media company. That's big news. And I think, and there are others, as you know, who are working on this technology, and there's some that are complaining, saying, well, this is the president and his side businesses that are now, I guess, competing with these other companies. Okay, legitimate concern if they get some sort of special preferential treatment. I wouldn't support that, but I also don't think that he should just completely divest and stop, any progress or any new moves, any growth of his private companies that are pretty much run by his offspring. And, of course, you remember Devin Nunes, the former House rep. I think he's the president of that enterprise when he created his Truth Social account. And it was mainly because the old Twitter was too much into censoring. Remember that time period where there was a lot of censoring going on, and Democrats, honestly, were getting the nod, getting preferential treatment. I mean, we have documents communications exchange between Twitter management, Twitter engineers, and the Biden White House and the Biden campaign.
Agencies and all that nonsense.
Yeah. So, of course, the president creates Truth Social, and Elon Musk comes in and buys Twitter, and that was largely because they were fed up with the censoring. And we're not talking about censoring inappropriate content. We're talking about censoring political messaging they didn't like and ideals they didn't like.
Oh, you dead-named someone. You should be banned.
Pretty much. And
you said a word that makes some people uncomfortable and others laugh at it. You should be banned.
And Jack Dorsey, the president, founder of Twitter, somewhat tacitly denied it, that he was involved, but I think he was, my personal opinion. But nonetheless, that's it. That's big time news. This combination, this merger between the Trump social or the Trump media empire and this nuclear fusion technology company. Really cool. You're going to see more of this. And Rhino, is this not another example of, I know I beat this horse up, but I still think it's relevant and it's something we need to think about. Rather than just doing without, like the Democrats tell us, no, let's use our noggins, our God-given creative talent, our intellect, because we are the superior intellect organism on the planet to solve these problems. That's what this is. Let's not just say, hey, we just can't do any AI here. Okay, well, welcome in, China. You got it. Because they ain't stopping. They're not going to let lack of... Hell, they'll starve their people for superiority there. They don't care. And so here's a situation where we've got innovative people and financial backing joining up. That's how great things happen, to say, let's solve this problem.
And it wouldn't be nearly as difficult if the average Democrat voter hadn't been brainwashed by bleeding heart blowhards into believing that the Democrat politicians are going to do without with them.
Yeah.
No. Democrat politicians were the ones like Gavin Newsom eating at French Laundry when he told you had to be 6 feet away from everybody and putting masks on babies.
It aggravates everybody, including me. The double standard, as you like to say, if there weren't for double standards, there would be none. And I agree.
It's almost like a reverse Hanlon's razor. Like Hanlon's razor says, never attribute to malice that which can be excused by stupidity.
That's right.
It's like Democrats have weaponized that. They act dumber than a bag of hammers in order to obfuscate their evil deeds.
You know, to your point there, I went on a rant, as did you. You joined in with me last week after Congressman Benny Thompson questioned Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and referred to the shooting of 2 National Guard troops, one of which sadly perished as a result. The other seems to be recovering, which is good news. But he referred to it as an unfortunate accident. So I had a conversation with somebody this morning who thinks like we do, but said, don't you think, Gerard, that was just him not knowing how to craft the statement and verbalize it and utilize the right words? I said, no, I think it was intentional. Don't you? I mean, I think he literally...
He's either intentionally evil or too stupid to be in the position he's in.
That's
Which
true.
one, wayward man?
Neither are excusable. That's the point. If you're confused about the right words to use to describe that situation, and you've been sitting in Congress for 32 years, well, that's inexcusable. And if you mean it in almost a virtue signaling, attention-getting pander to your anti-American, anti-military base, that's inexcusable too for a sitting member of the United States House of Representatives. Coming right back.
From the Seabrook he keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's MidDays. So we got some pretty decent news today on the inflation front. Speaking of the president's speech last night, it came in, did the CPI at 2.7%. That was a little better than expected. Still not down to the 2% target. Still means prices are increasing, just not at as significant a pace. 2.7%. And so the markets responded very positively to that news. I was, as I always do, watching the tickers when the report was released. And, of course, investors, traders, all eyes on that sort of critical economic data. And, man, you know, the markets were, and futures were up a little bit, 30, 40 points on the 3 main indexes, the 2 main indexes, and then the S&P as well, up a little percentage. But as soon as that information crossed the wire, took off. Right now, the Dow up 452, the NASDAQ up 454. Of course, we've had some losing days here of late, so really just recovering some of those losses at this point. And that's because inflation coming in better than expected. Investors think, okay, the Fed is going to see that and react. They're also managing a sluggish job market. So it is believed that the Fed will perhaps take a more dovish stance on interest rates. And don't forget, next May, a new Fed chairman will be installed. The president expected to announce who that will be before the end of the year. Most prognosticators think it's his Council of Economic Advisors chairman, Kevin Hassett. And I think he would be a good one. So that's good news. And I will say, I wonder, Rhino, if the president and his staff, which was a good move on their part, had a feeling we were going to get relatively positive news on the inflation front and scheduled the speech last night in advance of it. So between the time the president spoke and the release of that data this morning, that's less than 12 hours. I think that was a brilliant political move if that was the case. Of course, it could have backfired, right? If it had come in higher than expected, that would have really nullified the president's message last night. But this is good. I just would caution people and really express to folks that are tuned in. The key is wages outpacing inflation. Don't expect prices to return to 2019 pre-COVID levels. No doubt, the president talked about it last night. We are seeing the prices of some goods fall, but others are increasing as well. An example would be eggs falling, beef increasing, thinking about just grocery commodities. But in the case of both of those commodities, that's largely out of the president's control. We had a devastating bird flu that significantly thinned the hen population, and thus the supply of eggs was constrained, and that caused the price to spike. We got the same thing going on with beef, and beef producers are indicating that's a function of drought largely and a thinning of the herd. And so not a whole lot a president can do one way or another except ensure that there's a reasonable regulatory environment, because that is one thing you recall, Rhino, the Biden administration was, oh, you got a chicken here that's 5 miles away from one that had the bird flu? You got to kill the whole flock, right? So that's just stupid and unnecessary, and that exacerbated the problem with respect to eggs we're talking about. So that's where government can play a role in economic activity like that. So he talked about that, and he also pointed out real wages, since he's been in office, they have real wages, again, that's your nominal wages, adjusted for inflation. So just for clarity and simple example's sake, if in January 2025, when the president took office, you were making $1,000 a year. I know that's crazy, but this is just an example. And right now, you're making $1,100 a year. You've had a 10% increase in your nominal wages, just the absolute value, 1,000 to 1,100. But if inflation went from, based on a percentage, if inflation of what you consume increased such that what you buy exceeds that $100 increase in your wages, well, then your real wages have declined. But if your real wage increase of that $100 in this simple example I'm using here, if that increased more than what you consume, let's say that inflation caused what you consume to go up by $50, then you had a net increase in your real wages of $50. And he touted that. Actually, the latest BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics data, and I must say that with a qualification, Rhino, because I'm not totally confident the BLS is competent. Have we not learned that? And I don't care what they're measuring, but this is what we got to go by. That's the official yardstick, if you will. They report that real wages this year, since the president took office, up by just under 1%. That means that your wages are outpacing inflation by about 1%. However, and Joe Biden and the president pointed this out last night, in the first 3 years, significant decline in real wages because inflation was outpacing nominal wages by a lot. It is true that in the last year, the year 2024 of Joe Biden's term, that reversed and we had an increase in real wages, but not enough to offset the first 3 years. And that's what the president, he had a nice chart where he pointed that out last night. So under Biden, a net decrease in real wages. Under the president in his first year in this second term, a net increase. But he made the point, and this is where I think more politicians could be well served, is let's focus on the future. I get it. It was terrible under Biden. We need to just point that out, boom, done with it. What are we going to do to fix that problem and improve that situation? And so he talked about that last night, and he talked about the tax reform bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and the numerous provisions that actually kicked in 2025, but perhaps are not yet reflected in your wages because you haven't adjusted your withholdings with your employer. Now, here's the problem. The taxes and overtime, probably the two prominent changes in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, they're deductions. They're not exemptions. So you'd have to go work with your HR to kind of change the way your tax withholdings are structured to take advantage of that if you believe you're going to have overtime and in tip income to any extent, because you're not going to get credit for that until you square it up when you do your tax return, because it's a deduction, not an exemption. And so the payroll systems don't know anything about your deductions. But it is an above-the-line deduction, meaning you don't have to itemize. That's the key. So even if you don't have the necessary itemized expenses that exceed the standard deduction, which is the only way you get to deduct any of those expenses that are eligible, then you still get to take advantage of this because it tips and overtime because they're above the line deductions. The same is true with automobile interest. Remember now that there's a deduction for qualified vehicles up to $10,000. You have to have, I think, an income of below $100,000. But if it's a new American made vehicle, you get to deduct that. That's not been the case in many decades. That actually was ended under President Reagan. That went into effect in 2025. So you're not getting any benefit of that in your payroll right now. And so, though I don't want to give accounting advice here, I'm not practiced or licensed to do that anymore. You should talk to your HR if you think any of these situations apply to you: overtime, tips, deduction for qualified vehicle loans. You're a senior, you get this additional $6,000 deduction. Also the state and local deduction, even though that's an itemized deduction, that goes from $10,000 to $40,000. That's a big thing. But there are a couple of things that probably do apply to a lot of people listening, and that's the child tax credit. It goes to $2,200 per child, up by $200, and also an adoption credit if you fit into that category. And then there's child care tax credits as well. So go talk to your HR professional, whoever helps you with your taxes, to make sure that you don't loan the money to the government. Coming right back.
Patriotism.
Interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge.
Huge news. Huge news.
Huge.
You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Oh yeah, candles burning low, lots of mistletoe, lots of snow and ice, everywhere we go.
Welcome back, everyone. Little Stevie Wonder Christmas tunes, huh? Once again, we are in the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about or planning for retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. The C Spire text line, it, of course, is wide open at 601-879-4395. Be careful out there. Little precipitation, kind of a dusting of it moving into the area. That's particularly dangerous, is it not, as it mixes with the oil and residues on the roadways. Be careful, folks. Also, don't forget, coming up this Saturday, Ole Miss will host its first ever college football playoff game. And Sports Talk Mississippi will be at the library on the square in Oxford today and tomorrow, where you'll hear from coaches, former players, and more as we get you ready for one of the biggest games in Ole Miss history. Our coverage is brought to you by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and Southern hospitality. We've got President and CEO of Palmer Home, Drake Bassett, joining us in the next segment as we kick off Hour 2. And then at the bottom of the hour, it's Congressman Michael Guest. He'll be calling in. On the C Spire text line, Benny Thompson, we were talking about him earlier. He's not stupid. He is a proficient con artist, racist, and manipulator. I'd have a hard time disputing any of that there, Rhino. I think that pretty much sums it up. The Dems tried to prevent Trump's family from doing any business in Trump enterprises. Look, there's always a conflict. This president's unique because he spent a life, a career, building numerous businesses and enterprises. I don't think it would be appropriate for him to just dispense of all those because he becomes our president. I just also don't think that that the president or any lawmaker should get any kind of preferential treatment in policy making that would benefit their business endeavors. And the president's no different from that perspective than a member of Congress with insider trading. And I don't see any of that happening right now. I mean, if some sort of regulations were enacted around nuclear fusion.
Well, that's also part of the problem is the people that are screaming and crying that Trump owns businesses are the same ones that have constantly turned a blind eye to Hunter Biden selling his slop paintings for tons of money and getting money from Burisma to be on the board when he knows absolutely nothing about what they do.
100%. That, which is a considerably more egregious issue than the fact that the president owns businesses and is working with, merging with his media enterprise with a company that's developing nuclear fusion technology, from which we will all benefit, by the way. So, yep, agree. Mose says Gerard Benny Thompson, like all Democrats from time to time, will let slip what they really think. Yeah, a little Freudian slip there, huh, Mose? I agree. I'm with you, man. Dan in Hattiesburg says, I think part of the problem is that a lot of people paid their bills with credit back then, and now no matter how bad they try, they can't get out of the hole. Yeah, it could be. We were just talking about how a lot of people are kind of looking for the cost environment that we had during the pre-COVID era, the 2019 time period, and they kind of think, oh, yeah, the president's going to come in and return us to that. No, that's really not going to happen, and we don't want that because, again, as I explained, that means we've experienced significant deflation, and that would be deleterious for all of us. Thomas in Greenwood did say something about that. He said, would deflation help the working class and only be injurious to the investors? No, Thomas, it would hurt all of us. I could go down a rabbit hole on that, but I know you like to boast about your returns in your investment portfolio and your, I guess it's a 401k plan. Expect under deflation that would be cut in half. And if you try to run for the hills, sure, you could go put it in cash, but that's really not going to increase the value of your portfolio. It also means your employer would likely lay off a bunch of people. You may be one of them. And if they don't, they may come to you and ask for a pay cut, you to take a reduction in your pay, just as a way to make ends meet, because deflation means the economy's so bad, their revenues and profits are suffering. You could just go down the list. But the biggest thing about deflation is that occurs when you got significant unemployment. And significant unemployment means a whole lot less money out there to spend. And when that happens, that means companies suffer at the bottom line. And when they do that, they look to cut costs, and you would be a casualty of that. I could go further, but that's pretty good, I think, high-level overview. No, we don't want deflation, and it's not going to happen, thank God. Coming right back after Fox News and SuperTalk News with Drake Bassett, President and CEO of Palmer Home.
It's Christmas time.
Your of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Winter is here again, oh Lord. Haven't been home in a year, oh Lord. I hope she holds on.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays, live from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday Eve.
We welcome now Drake Bassett, President and CEO of Palmer Home. Hey, Drake.
Hi, Gerard. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. All right, give us an update from the Palmer Home around this Christmas and holiday season.
Yeah, well, happy to do that, and thank you for having me on. We, I feel like we're in full speed mode for the past couple of weeks. Christmas seemed to have started a couple of weeks ago, people reaching out, and of course, many volunteers coming over to, gift us with things that are useful for the children. But there's just a high energy level of I think, joy and happiness, and it doesn't take away from the realities of day to day and some of the challenges with children that they face. And if anything, Christmas brings about just that elevated spirit of awareness, an elevated spirit of gratitude. And for all of us here, I think we just appreciate the opportunity to serve and the opportunity to be around situations that really benefit from the Christmas spirit. And I don't necessarily mean lots and lots of gifts. I just mean a spirit of kindness, a spirit of, awareness. Our children are excited. We had a great Saturday night. We had an event there. It's Christmas traditions. And what that means, we have dinner together. We had a chapel service. But then we also get to share with them their own individual stocking. And it's not a stocking like your stocking or mine. It's a little bit bigger. The gifts are tailored to meet their needs. And so the stockings have their name on it. And that's just a lot of fun. I just love to see those faces light up, especially for children. There were 2 or 3 that this is their first kind of experience like that. And you watch these kids and you just love seeing the impact.
Yeah, that's awesome. And man, if every kid deserves this, honestly, you only get to go through that one time. And if you miss out on it due to these extenuating circumstances, then you can't ever get that back. And I know that you guys are aware of that, and you want to make sure that they have a healthy, normal childhood. And that obviously also leads to successful, productive adulthood.
Yeah, there are so many moments during the year when we're coaching and there are boundaries and you're introducing things like that. And then you have moments like their individual birthdays, or you have a moment like Christmas, and you're able to balance all of the structure and the coaching and some of the hardship of just coming to grips with some of the realities they face, to balance it with such a overwhelming sort of sweet moment where children, one child turned around the other night, was holding that stocking and just innocently said, is this for me?
Oh, man.
So the answer is yes, this is for you. And so for them to be filled with a sense of love, a sense of appreciation, and to just feel, that's not physical. That's the intangible. That's what we're kind of going for. And so to see those high impact moments where kids realize this is special for me, it's incredible.
No, that's awesome. So, how are you doing with respect to house parents and mentors? It's our understanding that you have a need. I know that's a fairly constant need, but what's going on there?
Yeah, we're just really excited. We've got some great people here on staff who are doing a wonderful job. And we also know that we could do a little bit more if we had one more set of house parents. For some of our house parents, they've been here for years, and for some it's a season. But right now we would love to recruit, the right couple who are interested in serving in this way, to become part of our team, to become part of our environment. And so we're always looking for that couple that believes that this would be a mission for them. It's an opportunity to live in one of our homes. And to be part of the day-to-day life of these children. And, like I said, I'm so grateful for the house parents that we have because I see what they do. Right. They shape lives every day. They show them what it's like to live in a home, to have those happy moments, to be consistent, to show up. That's house parenting. Yeah. And then also, we love the idea of mentoring, children having outside voices, people that we can trust, that they can trust, and sort of becomes their personal, hero of sorts. We've seen people come over and, just shoot basketball with a child for a day or take them out, to McDonald's or something and just have, again, it's another layer of helping a child feel like they're loved, that they're cared for. And obviously, I remember growing up, there were things I shared with my parents and there were things that I shared with other people. Yeah. And, and it just was nice to be able to have a trusted person that they could lean on. And we've seen mentors play incredible roles in shaping our children's lives. And so mentors, that's not as complicated maybe as, I can't go be a house parent or I can't necessarily do foster care right now, but maybe I could do a Saturday a month, or I could do a couple of weekends. I could do, whatever that looks like. So for people who are interested in getting involved and you think maybe that's for you, we'd love for you to reach out and talk to us about that.
Drake, is there anything that is extraordinary in the Palmer home this time of year with respect just to perhaps the number of children that come your way or any other of the metrics and the aspects of the operation?
Yeah, I think, statistics show, and we all are old enough now to realize sometimes holidays are not easy for families. And so, through the years, we've had these phone calls that'll come, a week before Christmas, or it'll come right during Christmas. It may come right after Christmas when families are faced with some things that maybe they haven't been able to navigate, and things come apart. And so I remember last year, I think we took in a few children just right before Christmas. And that was because it's an example of that. There's tension, there's pressure. And when some of the other things aren't in place, we're going to go through Christmas and we kind of joke about it. Yeah, we're going to go see, our mother-in-law, or we're going to go see somebody. And we kind of laugh about some of the, and what we're saying is that there can be some natural tensions of just being around. Well, if some of the family structure isn't in place and other factors, maybe like the drugs or the alcohol or other things like that, some of the worst things can happen during holidays. Yeah. And so for us, we're happy to celebrate Christmas, but we do it with one eye open to the fact that there are a lot of needs out there, a lot of families that might struggle through this time. And so we have more than once, I've seen the team come in on, Christmas Day or the day after Christmas, or, 2 to resolve a situation for a family we didn't know 2 days before. And so I think in that sense, we're grateful that our children are safe here and they can be here, but we're also mindful to be ready to help people out there during this season.
Yeah. So, all right. So, folks that want to help, how can they do it, either financially or otherwise, Drake?
Yeah. Well, first thing, I always want to say thank you to your audience, because your audience is active not only on SuperTalk, but this time of year. That extra $10 or $15 or whatever they choose to send makes a big difference to us. It's another. I think of it as another. Just one more child under my tree. In other words, if I've got 4 children, hey, I'm going to do a fifth, and I'm going to send $25 to Palmer Home, and somebody will be blessed that way. But no doubt, they can go to our website and they can find out how to do that, and we encourage that. But this time of year, especially. I just ask people to pause and find a couple of minutes and just reflect on the fact that there are, not only here at Palmer Home, but there are a lot of families and children who do suffer through this period, and I think they deserve a moment or two of our prayers. I think prayers are what matter the most. It's what kept Palmer Home here for 130 years, and we see that going into the next year. It's going to be the same, and so at the end of the year, to be thankful for all the good things that have happened. But to pray for good things to come. And so I certainly solicit those on behalf of Palmer Home. And we appreciate the fact that your audience, they not only give financially, but they give heart, soul, time, talent, and they give in prayer. And so, certainly want to ask for that, and grateful always.
Always good talking to you, Drake. Appreciate you joining us. And, of course, Merry Christmas and God bless you, the team at Palmer Home, of course, the children, the house parents, the mentors, everyone involved, and, of course, all those who help as well. Let's hope they have a happy, healthy, blessed Christmas and holiday and a better new year. Thank you, Drake.
That's awesome. Thank you, Gerard. Great to see you, and thanks to everybody out there.
You bet. We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth Studio.
Is everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
So, something else to pass on from the president's remarks last night, and that is a dividend that he proposed to members of our armed forces. Very clever as well. $1,776. He said last night checks are already in the mail, but I don't think he can do that without the Congress authorizing it. This, again, 1776, the year of our founding. And that would go to, I think there are just under 1.5 million members of our armed forces. So, see, quick math on that, about $2.6 billion. That's what I just did off my head there. Not a whole lot of money. I sure would have liked to see him announce that we're cutting $2.6 billion somewhere else. Now, that's a fraction, honestly, of a $7 trillion budget.
Yeah, the exact figure is there are 1.45 million service members, so multiplied by 1776, you get $2,575,200,000.
Okay, that's pretty close. But that, I think, was brilliant. Came out of the blue last night. Did not expect that. Again, I don't think he can do it without authorization from the Congress. And honestly, it's the way it should be. But I can't imagine that the Congress would not pass such a proposal, such a measure. But who knows, right? $1,776 to every member of the United States Armed Forces.
You never can tell. You'll probably have the Democrats vote against it with their buddies Thomas Massey and Rand Paul.
Yeah, that's probably true. I can see them opposing it. It's just how they are, and kind of their calling card, if you will, is to say no all the time to virtually everything. But seems like that's certainly where we're headed. That was just an interesting twist that I didn't see. 1776. Incredible. Coming out. So, just looking at more fact-checking on the break as well. Interesting what folks are saying. And I think all people in that position tend to stretch things a little bit. Certainly understandable because they want to deliver a strong message. But if you're going to do it, just be aware that people are going to call it out when stuff isn't exactly as presented. If there's a distinction between that and reality. By the way, he's calling this a warrior dividend. Quote, the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago, he says. Interesting. 36% of Americans polled in December say they approve of how the president is handling the economy, and more than 1 in 3 said their personal finances had deteriorated in the past year. Consumer confidence is near the lows reached when inflation was around 9%. We talked about that earlier in mid-2022 under Joe Biden. So inflation hasn't stopped, and we honestly, if it does, that usually means that foretells of a recession, and if we experience deflation, as we talked about, that means we're in a depression and that there's massive unemployment. Again, we just want wages to continue to outpace the rise in the CPI, the cost of goods and services. And so far, under the president in his first 11 months, they have. That's how he is distinguished considerably from the prior president, Joe Biden, where the first 3 years wages did not keep up with inflation. They only did in the final year, but the net of the 4 was a decrease of about $1,000 on average of spending power, whereas this particular year it's about $800, according to my calculations, of additional disposable income, increase in real wages under this particular president.
We did have a good question on the ceasefire text line about the warrior dividend from the 601.
Yeah.
They ask, is it for all service members or just active duty?
You know, what's included in that $1.5 million, because all the reports I'm seeing, they all refer to the same figure you did, 1450. I'm
From
not
my
sure.
understanding, it is all active duty, including reserves and National Guard. The only military members that will be excluded are general officers at 07 level or higher.
Okay. Interesting. So he certainly didn't discern that last night in his remarks. I didn't hear him say anything. He just presented that and said, yeah, this just came up 30 minutes ago, and boom, that was it. Warrior dividend. Really didn't provide any additional color around that. So apparently you found some additional information about it, specifics, details. Usually, the military, armed services media, they're pretty good about covering things like that policy matters that come out of Washington that affect America's armed forces. They actually do. They're pretty good journalists there that deal with that. So, but you found something, right, related to that?
Yeah, it was from Thomas Novelly, senior reporter at Defense One.
Okay.
He's got a quote, Congress appropriated $2.9 billion to the Department of War to supplement the basic allowance for housing entitlement within the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Okay.
Approximately 1.28 million active component military members and 174,000 reserve component military members will receive this supplement.
Okay. Good stuff. The Dow's turned negative. I have no idea what happened. It was up 400 points. Now it's negative. So something's spooking investors for sure. Have to check it out. Let's see. Seems like y'all smirk at Rand Paul and Thomas Massey for what all congressmen should be doing, being a good steward of our money. It's not that. I actually agree a lot of times with what they say. And, of course, Paul came out with his annual Festivus list again, and I heard some of the nonsense there. And he's spot on that, and he's good for pointing it out. They just can be a little obstinate, that's all. And again, I also think sometimes the president unfairly calls them out for standing their ground on certain matters. So, but they tend to just not want to, I guess, assimilate or tend to not want to try to work things out. It's just always throwing rocks and stones at people with whom they disagree. And I will give...
They're some of the most ineffectual Congress people up there.
Yeah, they just don't get anything done. And I think they could use a different approach to try to advance their proposals, their agenda, and their strategy. And I will say Rand Paul did propose some health care reform, talked about that, recorded a video where he presented it. I watched it, listened to it, agree with some of those stuff. He's the one that proposed taking this association plan concept even further, allowing big retailers, for example, who have clubs like Costco, Sam's, there are numerous others. That's become a very common trend, as you know, in consumption and retailing. Hey, join the club and get all these benefits. Most people are accustomed to those. And he talked about allowing members of, like, the Costco club. He actually cited Costco. And during the video, in the background was a still shot of a big Costco that we're all familiar with, the big red Costco signage. And he said, everybody that's in Costco could join together to purchase health insurance as a group. That's been talked about for years and never been able to get any traction. Here's the problem with that, though, and though I support it. And the idea is, as an individual, when you're trying to buy insurance, first, not all carriers want to sell you insurance. Blue Cross in Mississippi, they don't want to deal with you, honestly. They're probably listening mad at me. But the reality is they make it hard for you as an individual. Yeah, we really want to deal with big groups. Or, the other big part of their business is administration of coverage for those who work in Mississippi that are part of the group coverage for companies headquartered outside of Mississippi. So they become the administrator because, as you know, all that stuff's different in every state. You got to have somebody on the ground in the state to deal with the physicians and the providers to deal with the claims, so forth. That's a big part of their business is a third-party administrator, TPA. An individual wants to come buy $10,000 of insurance a year. They're not as inclined to really welcome that. But if you joined up with thousands of other people in the state through your Costco membership and went to Blue Cross and said, we want to do that, I'm honestly not sure if they'd have an interest. But that was one. I'm just talking about Rand Paul here. That was a key element of his health care proposal, which we'll get into in a minute because we got Congressman Michael Guest up next. The House passed a bill yesterday. Stay with us.
From the Seabrook document.
Properly set all controls before recording.
All systems go.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Thanks for joining us. We've got Congressman Michael Guest, who represents Mississippi's 3rd District, on the line. Congressman, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning, Gerard. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, man. So you're still up there in Washington, right? You got Christmas around the corner, but you guys are still working. And I guess yesterday, in terms of any kind of high-profile legislation, you did pass a health care reform bill. I don't know how much interest there will be in the United States Senate down the hall there for pushing that over, needing 60 votes. What do you think?
Yeah, look, this is something that Republicans have been working on. We want to make sure that we address the affordability issue that we're seeing. And so Republicans were able to put together a package that CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, scores will reduce health care costs by 10%. So pretty dramatic savings to the American public. And we were able to get this bill passed out of the House with zero Democrat support throughout this whole process. Over really, the basis of the government shutdown, or the Dems shut down the federal government for 6 weeks, was over the cost of health care. So Republicans put together a package of bills that would reduce health care, according to CBO, by 10%. And not one single Democrat came on board with that. Instead, they are demanding an extension of the COVID Obamacare subsidies, which would only impact 7% of all Americans. The Republican health care bill would impact 100% of Americans. Anyone who receives health care in America would benefit under the Republican plan, and we had not one single Democrat vote for that yesterday. So that tells me that Democrats are wanting to use health care costs as a political tool coming into the elections, and so was glad to see that Republicans are actually wanting to do something, while Democrats are wanting to use this only as a political weapon in 2026.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because what they are holding out for, and just seem to be intransigent and dug in, is extension of the enhanced subsidies that were, at least in the Democrats' mind, justified on the basis of COVID. I still can't really reconcile that and make that line of thinking make sense, but that's what they said nonetheless. And as you know, in the American Rescue Plan for a year, and then extended it to 2025 in the Inflation Reduction Act. But the Democrats only seem to be focused on that, Congressman. And what this bill does is it addresses the health care insurance issue overall with the association health plans, for example, and the cost-sharing subsidies, which does go into the exchanges. And you also address in this legislation pharmacy benefit managers, and then create choice accounts. Yeah, and create. So these are things, and choice accounts specifically deal with those of us who get our coverage from our employers. So the Republican plan is, again, more inclusive and more sweeping, and addresses these costs that we're all facing, whereas the Democrats are only focused on about 6% of the people in the country.
That's right. Yeah, and look, let's talk to your listeners a little bit about, because not all of them are as familiar with the Affordable Care Act as we are. This was a plan that Democrats created in 2010 with no Republican support. They created this plan. If you remember the line from Barack Obama, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And that healthcare premiums would go down if we were to pass Obamacare. And so it passed in 2010. The Democrats later came in, you're right, on the American Rescue Plan. They passed with no Republican support, the enhanced subsidies, because there are already subsidies in the original Obamacare legislation. There are already subsidies for most Americans who purchase their health care by the way of the health care exchange. But they passed enhanced subsidies. And look, when we think of these subsidies, as I'm talking to people back home and I'm explaining, 34% of the subsidies, the enhanced subsidies, go to families making more than $100,000. Generally, we think of subsidies going to people who are at or near the poverty level. That's not the case. We're talking about families making more than $100,000. They're receiving over a third of the subsidies to what I would consider people who are in a higher income category. And so these subsidies have been in place. These subsidies have not brought down the cost of health care. And what these subsidies have done is they have enriched large health insurance companies like, United Healthcare. Now, if you look at the profit model for that particular company, as what they have been able to earn profit-wise, and look, I've got no problem with somebody earning a profit. I'm all about companies being able to compete in the market and earn a profit, but I am concerned when they base those profits or make those profits off the federal government. United Healthcare's profit margin since 2010 has gone up from $4.6 billion to, in 2023, $22 billion. And so when we talk about healthcare and where are these costs going and why are costs going up so much, some of that, and I would say a large portion of that, is because healthcare companies are increasing their bottom line because they are using this system that we have created, the Affordable Care Act, to enrich themselves and enrich their shareholders.
Yeah, and the subsidies, of course, the question I always ask is, well, in 2010 when this thing passed, it's structured, as you know, to limit the out-of-pocket cost of premiums to an enrollee to a percentage of their income. Someone in their wisdom figured out this is essentially the percentage someone with this level of income should be required to pay for their insurance. I mean, why did that all of a sudden change? Because that's essentially what the enhanced subsidies did, is it restructured that chart, that scale, if you will. Did we have a change of heart on that? How did the Democrats justify that?
Again, the Democrats justified that under COVID. They said this was a temporary Obama subsidy program that would only last during COVID. They set the sunset date of sunsetting, at the end of this Congress. It kind of reminds me of the old Ronald Reagan quote, Gerard, where Reagan said the closest thing to eternal life on earth is a government program. And that's right. Where we are with this. This program was created. It was created with a set date in which these subsidies were to expire. Now that we're approaching that date, the Democrats and a handful of moderate Republicans want to extend that. And what they're talking about, at least the latest bill that we've seen the Democrats pushing, is a 3-year extension. Yeah. An extension that has no income caps. An extension that would come in and would not deal with any of the waste, fraud, and abuse that is rampant within the program, and a program that would cost the taxpayers, for every year in which it is extended, roughly $50 billion. And so, what I've been able to uncover through some of the hearings that I've been able to listen in, is the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse that we see with these subsidies. Yep. It was revealed that there was one particular Social Security number that was associated with 125 different policies just for that one Social Security number, that there are 58,000 policies that are registered with Social Security numbers of people that the Social Security Administration says are deceased. And then both GAO and the Congressional Budget Office, they worked together and they submitted fictitious applications to insurance companies with either erroneous information or information that should have clearly kicked those out as invalid policies. And they reported that 100% of the time that those fictitious claims were accepted by the insurance company. And so the program appears to me to be ripe with waste, fraud, and abuse. And the extension that Democrats are talking about, they have no protections to protect the taxpayers from having their money stolen from them by the insurance companies.
100%. So, Congressman, I'm gonna put my IT hat on here for a second. It's something we've been talking about on the show, and we've shared that exact data, but it certainly bears repeating. This is 100% a function of deficient IT systems. But we should not have IT systems that allow a Social Security number to be used 125 times. That's just IT 101 there. Can we get you guys to address that and maybe hire some outside third parties to come in and clean this thing up and not pay them until it's cleaned up? We got a break. We can continue it on the other side if you can stay with us.
Yes, sir. Happy to.
Yeah, man. We're coming right back with Congressman Michael Guest.
Poly-Up of Mississippi.
Check it out. Let's do this.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert
Let's get on with it.
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Boom, 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 boom,
Santa baby.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We've got Congressman Michael Guest on the line from his post up there in Washington. He represents District 3 in the great state of Mississippi. So before we went to break, Congressman, I know you heard me talking about really kind of criticizing these IT systems we have. And it's not just at the federal level, it's the state level that allow all sorts of ineligible recipients to game the system and gain money from it. It just seems like that we ought to have some focus on correcting these deficient systems.
Yeah, and you're right. You know, one of the problems, and we've talked about it before, is the fact that each of these agencies has their own computer systems.
Yep.
The computer systems at times can't talk to systems in other agencies, and so it makes it difficult, in some cases impossible, to do what should be very easy routine checks, such as making sure that a particular Social Security number being used, and for whatever purpose, that is a valid Social Security number, that the person is alive and well, and that we don't have people using the Social Security numbers of deceased individuals to fleece the system.
Yeah.
And there has been some work to make the systems more compatible. I'll tell you, Gerard, it's far slower than I would like to see. It seems things in government work seem to take entirely too long to accomplish, and they cost 2 or 3 times what they would be able to, or if not more, 2 or 3 times more than what you could get done in the private sector. But we are trying to make sure that we are moving government forward and that we have doing a better job of interagency communication.
No, you're spot on, and you're right. And I guess I'm requesting you here to, be kind of a voice for that. You already know this. You know that there's lack of integration across the agency spectrum and from the state to the federal level. And we found the same problems, right, Congressman, in the SNAP program, in the TANF program, and the Medicaid program, where all these big government-funded, taxpayer-funded benefit programs, they all have the same core problem: Social Security, Medicare, all of them, just flawed IT systems, which allows all of this erroneous data to flow through and, honestly, ineligible recipients.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it is frustrating to know that there is ways in which we can identify and stop waste, fraud, and abuse. But we're not taking advantage of that. And so it is a much slower process. We need to get you up here, Gerard, and see if you can't give some of our bureaucrats up here a good lesson in how things get done in the private sector, because this should have already occurred, but we're still working through it as we speak.
Well, I appreciate that. Lorino likes to call them that. It's not my problem people. There's no motivation, right? Because there are no consequences. As you know, the Democrats have sort of created this shield around government employees. Now, you guys are making some progress. You've seen the recent data. There's been a reduction in force of federal workers, and some of that's natural attrition, but we're not replacing those workers, which is a good thing. We don't need a lot of them, honestly, and the taxpayers don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, you're right, and and we've seen what the Doge Group has been able to do. I mean, they've identified over $200 billion in savings. You talk about the fact that we've reduced the federal workforce in certain areas, which in areas that were bloated, and departments that were created under the prior administration that weren't necessary. And so I think we've done a good job of beginning to right-size the federal workforce. But look, we still got a long way to go. There's a lot of people in federal employment who, over time will transition out. And I think in many instances, not all of those positions need to be refilled.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, before we go here quickly, we got a couple of minutes. Your thoughts on the president's remarks last night?
I didn't get a chance to watch it, Gerard, and I'll tell you why. So we had a group from Southwest Mississippi Community College. Their stage band was in D.C. They performed at the White House yesterday. So myself and Senator Highsmith went to the White House and watched these young men and women as they performed there in the White House. And then we had the entire group, students, parents, faculty, and staff. They were at the Capitol last night. And so I had the opportunity to give this group a tour of the Capitol. And it was so amazing because some of these young men and women had never been out of Mississippi. And so they come to Washington, D.C. They get to go to the White House. They get to go to the Capitol. And so we spent about 2.5 hours with them, me and my staff. It was an incredible experience. And so, unfortunately, I missed the president's address to the nation last night.
Gotcha.
But I did hear or read that he is proposing a bonus to our military personnel of $1,776, a great amount to some fine Americans who do an incredible job protecting this nation. And so I would tell you that I'm very supportive of the president as he continues to support our men and women in the military.
I got you. Amen. Congressman Michael Guest represents Mississippi's 3rd Congressional District, has been our guest on Middays. Always good to talk to you, Congressman. A very blessed and Merry Christmas to you, Haley, and, of course, your fantastic family. Always good seeing you as we did a couple of weeks ago over the holidays. Take care.
Well, thank you, Gerard. Merry Christmas to you, Rhino, and the team.
You bet. We're coming right back after Fox News Super Talk News.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays. We're with you from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday Eve.
Okay, the Dow's recovered. The NASDAQ still in the green considerably, up 382 points at this time. So tell the folks what you were sharing with me with respect to the Warrior dividend of $1,776 per service member.
Yeah, there were questions about how you do it without congressional approval, and it's because Congress has already approved the monies. It is a senior administration official told Thomas Novelly at Defense One in an emailed statement late Wednesday night that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth directed the Pentagon to, quote, disperse $2.6 billion as a one-time basic allowance for housing supplement, end quote, to all eligible service members ranks 06 and below. Congress appropriated $2.9 billion in the Department of War, or to the Department of War, to supplement the basic allowance for housing entitlement within the One Big Beautiful Bill, which will cover approximately 1.28 million active component military members and 174,000 reserve component military members as they receive this supplement.
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess that's why the president said something to the effect, this just happened 30 minutes ago. Maybe they're just acting on this, perhaps, as a lump sum, sounds like, is kind of how they're handling this. And okay, cool. So we got that, got our answer there. So Thomas in Greenwood was asking about that. Surely they got to have the Congress. And it turns out, well, yeah. I said, yeah, they do. But it turns out Congress has already done that. So that's why he claimed it's on its way. Makes sense. On let's see, on the ceasefire text line, seems no, we got that already. This is another one. The economy issue is greedy corporations. They are still running high prices to offset anything good for the consumer. They are keeping the savings. So let's see. You're bad if you try to maximize profits. If you're trying to optimize profits, you should just out of the goodness of your heart, sell what you provide for a price that's lower than the market will pay for it. Do you do that with your wages? Would you go to your employer and say, look, I don't need all this money, cut my pay? Anybody ever done that? Don't know too many. So anytime I see that, my question always is, what do you want to do about that? If you think that they're making excess profit, whatever that is, I don't know that there is a such thing as excess profit. The only time I could see that would even come into play is if they're violating antitrust rules. But as long as a company
or legitimate price gouging,
right? But that would typically apply. It only applies when they're emergency situations, and you got to buy something you really didn't want to buy, like gallons of water
but I
at
think
the same
technically,
time.
by definition, that would be excess profit.
Okay. I would agree, but we do have laws against that.
Right.
By the way, we don't need any new dang laws. And that's an unusual circumstance. That's an anomaly. That's not what's happening at the grocery store every day. And, for example, the price of beef. I mean, that just truly is a function of demand and supply. Price of eggs, which have now receded considerably after having spiked during the bird flu. Demand and supply. Price of housing, to a great extent. Demand and supply. Price of rent, which is part of housing, but the price of rent is an area where the invasion, as the president referred to it, of illegals has had more of a play. They're not buying the $400,000, $500,000 houses, but they are filling up the apartments, and that is spiking the cost of rent in apartments. It's a demand and supply thing. But the question is, well, what do you want to do? The government to come in and institute price controls? Don't answer that, because that's exactly what the Democrats wanted to do. It was a key plank in the platform of Kamala Harris. We're going to stop this price gouging that Kroger's doing. We're going to come in and tell them what they're going to sell their goods for on the shelf. Having no idea, and I'm just using Kroger as an example, not sure if you guys know their financial profile. They generate about $150 billion a year in gross revenue, and they make less than 3%. It's a 2% business at best. And so I always get, I guess, a little passionate about the subject of greed, because I think that often gets confused with the pursuit of excellence, the pursuit of maximization of your bottom line. Should we not allow the New York Yankees to ever win another World Series, since they have more than all the rest of them combined? I mean, that's probably an exaggeration, but they got a bunch. How about Alabama and their national championships in football? Was it the Wizard of Westwood, UCLA, John Wooden?
I've always poked fun at Alabama because, I mean, you got so many legitimate national championships. Why do you got to pad your stats?
That is true.
With ones that you're claiming.
That's true. I was about to say Wizard of Westwood, John Wooden, right? Basketball coach, famed basketball coach of UCLA. 10 in a row or something insane like that. National championships he won. I think a feat that's not expected to ever be duplicated. And, of course, the players that he coached, a who's who, right? By the way, he has a book. Just wanted to pass this on. Maybe my favorite book of all, just kind of a life book. It's called A Game Plan for Life. And he's incredible. I mean, he's way more than just a basketball coach. He's a philosopher. He's a life mentor. I learned a lot reading that book, A Game Plan for Life. And when he talks in there about how he approached coaching some of these superstars, went on to be superstars in the NBA. And there's one in particular, Rhino, he recruited like from a community college or something in the Pacific Northwest, and it was just to be on the scout team against Bill Walton. Felt like he could effectively challenge him, and really never played, got much playing time. But he got drafted and had a great career in the NBA. So his scout team people were NBA stars. That's how good this guy was. And, of course...
That's how ahead of the curve he was, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Just thinking about, I need somebody to challenge my best player. And he went and gave a scholarship to a guy for that purpose. That's amazing to think about. Famous photo you've probably seen of him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right, where Kareem is about 4 feet higher than him. He's got his arm around him because he credits him with his success. I know I'm kind of digressing here a bit, but I'm just thinking about super successful people. Do we want to go tell John Wooden, you can't win any more national championships? It's kind of what I feel like anytime I hear this greed. And I'm not saying that there aren't cases of legitimate greed, which I define as when you either covet or you attain something illegitimately or illegally and at the expense of others. And I don't mean just in the competitive marketplace. I mean truly harm others to achieve it. Yeah, that's greed. But the reality is the market will punish you if you don't treat it right. And if you treat it right, it rewards you. Not always. Sometimes the market says, yeah, just don't like that. And you could do everything right.
Let's give a hypothetical example. Say you decided that you were going to build a greenhouse and start growing bananas. And you were going to play classical music in the greenhouse to do something special to the bananas, and you were going to use white gloves when applying organic pest. Like you go through all these different things that are adding value to your bananas. And you believe that your bananas are worth $5 a banana.
Right.
And you go to the grocery store and you somehow get them on the shelf for $5 a banana. The market is not likely going to agree with your valuation of $5 a banana.
Correct.
So you're likely not going to sell very many bananas at $5.
Great example. Totally agree. Tim from Tupelo said, by the way, it isn't Christmas until I hear Porky Pig Blue Christmas. Here at home, we got a race for Congress over there in the 2nd District heating up a bit. An attorney with ties to Chucky Schumer and Liz Warren has launched a Democratic primary challenge to Representative Benny Thompson. Evan Turnage, Yale-educated attorney from Jackson, launching a primary. He's 33 years old, former aide to Senate Majority Leader Chuck, who hates stock buybacks, Schumer of New York, and Senate Conference Vice Chair Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. Was an aide for both of those. Going to take on Benny, and of course, there are a couple of Republicans also in that race. Most recently, Kevin Wilson has announced he's a supervisor in Adams County and an oil man as well, a successful business career. He just recently qualified, filed his intent to seek the seat of the 2nd Congressional District as a Republican. Ron Eller, who's run for the seat in the past, also in the race, have met Kevin and his wife, as Ron and Kevin and his wife, delightful people. I think they'd be excellent representatives for the state of Mississippi and Mississippi's 2nd Congressional District. So, little fireworks there in the district. Coming right back.
Carter Jewelry.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you. I'll if you feel so blue, it'll just thinking about you. It'll be decorations of red on a green Christmas tree. It won't be the same, dear, if you're not here with me. hear me? And the windows, it'll be blue. It's the snowflakes. It's start falling.
Oh, man. No one was better than the great Mel Blanc at doing those voices, huh? Unbelievable. You know, when I was younger and the Johnny Carson show was in his prime, he'd come on there and just on demand do those voices and come up with something funny, you know, to do them in as well. What a talent he was. And recorded forever, right? And still played today. How many of those dang characters did he do? Almost all of them. Bugs Bunny, Yosemite Sam.
That's what's amazing about voice actors.
What's that?
You have actors, and a lot of times an actor will get typecast or get stuck with a role because they look or sound or act in a way that really kind of fits that type of role. And they'll get typecast.
Yeah.
But then you have voice actors that can really, truly show off their range of acting because they don't usually get pigeonholed into one type that they always get cast in. So you'll have voice actors that'll be Bugs Bunny in one thing where they're the main character, and then there'll be a sidekick in another one. And they're getting the work, and they're getting to show their range, but they're avoiding that typecasting that you see a lot of times as people try to break through into acting.
Yeah, it's a good point. And Mel was incredibly versatile. Foghorn Leghorn. Think about how different that voice is than Porky Pig, what you just played. I mean, they're not even close. But so good. Sylvester. I mean, just go down the list, man. He was so dang good.
Which Sylvester reminds me of. There's an argument that's been going on online for over a decade now about who owns the catchphrase "sufferin' succotash."
Okay.
Is it Sylvester the cat, or is it Daffy Duck?
Ah, right.
And the problem is they both have used that phrase in quote-unquote pivotal moments of their cartoon career.
Suffering succotash, right?
Oh, yeah.
So good. Oh, man, that's fun. Appreciate that. So, who asked us about that earlier? We got it for you. Rhino on the all-hit request line took care of it.
That's another perfect example from the 601. The guy that played Uncle Phil on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was the voice of Shredder, the bad guy in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I didn't know that. Definitely didn't. That's cool. That's so neat. And there are a lot of other examples like that I think folks would be surprised at. Wait, that person was that voice behind that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
it's less common nowadays because animation has become big in Hollywood, and because it's become big, they want big names to sell tickets.
Yeah.
And there's been a bit of pushback from the voice actors that do voices for a living. It's like, hey, you're giving that voice to a big name just to sell tickets.
Yeah.
And they're a great actor, but they're not an excellent voice actor.
You know what's neat is when you watch them recording, like the cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
And you got it's just, I mean, that's an art. They're really good at that. I always marveled watching them. And Mel Blanc would be doing several in the same cartoon, right? Going back and forth just with perfection. Unbelievable.
I think it was Disney's Tarzan movie where I forget the guy's name, but he's an excellent voice actor. They brought him in to do the voice of the villain.
Yeah.
And the guy they had playing Tarzan couldn't do the Tarzan, like the yodel or whatever. I can't do it either. But the villain could do it. And he was already done recording. They were pretty much shutting everything down, but they still had to get the Tarzan yodel. So they brought in the villain, cut him a new contract for like an hour's worth of work to just sit in the studio and do the Tarzan yodel over and over and over again.
On the C-Spire text line, William and Brandon, I never knew Bart Simpson was a woman's voice. The things you learn. Yeah, Nancy Cartwright, her name. Yeah, I remember finding out about that as well several years ago. I got to tell you, when I was a kid, something related to that, a popular song was Venus right? Shocking Blue or something like that, I think was the artist. And I didn't know that was a female vocalist. I don't know why I always thought that was just a male with kind of a tenor voice. Popular tune, of course, back in the 60s. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not uncommon in voice acting to have a woman play a young boy.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they can get into the right vocal range.
Yeah, great point. I say that, boy, that's great stuff, says Chad Van Cleve, talking about Foghorn Leghorn. That's so good. Oh, man. Good stuff.
I ain't a chicken, I'm a rooster.
Exactly. Oh, man, a lot of fun. Appreciate that little nostalgia digressing there because of Porky Pig. So all because of the request on the all-hit request line for Porky Pig's Blue Christmas. Oh, man. Back to business here. More than 200 House Democrats voted against a bill aimed at criminalizing transgender medical treatment for minors Wednesday evening. You remember we enacted such legislation here. I got to tell you, do we need a federal law for that, though, Rhino? Can we handle that at the state level? That's the first thing that hit me. But the second thing is, what in the hell is wrong with you 200 Democrats? You are, in my opinion, condoning child abuse. This may be worse than child abuse. You could, in certain circumstances, many circumstances, recover from child abuse. We've got great organizations and therapies and treatments and other resources that can help you. But this is kind of permanent when you start mutilating one's genitals. You have ruined them for life. What is wrong with you?
It's the suicidal empathy of the left.
Golly. Just incredible. Also, you know how the left, of course, they love to lecture us about diversity and inclusion. So there's a photo, you've probably seen this, going around that is, it's a bit viral. It's the Huffington Post. You know who those guys are? No bastion of conservatism are they. What was the name? Ariana Huffington that founded this deal that was a left-wing loon. So I'm looking at a photo about them where members of their team gathered around a fairly sizable conference table in a conference room. Looks like they're doing like a web conference, a Zoom conference, WebEx, what have you. And I'm looking at this table of the Huffington Post employees all gathered around with their laptops and having a meeting and having a conference. It's all white females. 16 of them, white females. So they lecture us about this crap. Is this another situation where it's rules for thee and not for me? Sure feels like it. Shame on you, Huffington Post. Where's your sense of diversity and equity and inclusion? Meanwhile, out there in California, they've signed a law.
They probably think it's diverse enough because probably more than half of those white women are gay.
That's probably true. That's probably true. But
so
they're
they all get to check the box for woman, and another half of them get to check it for gay. So they feel they've checked enough of the intersectionality boxes to be safe.
Unbelievable. Well, in the meantime, out there in California, in La La Land, they signed into law recently here a bill requiring all 7th to 12th grade teachers to certified employees, to undergo an LGBTQ plus cultural competency training. Part of the program, and you know how this stuff works, somebody leaks it, inevitably, right? So this is a teacher, I'm looking at this little short video, objecting to this. But they leak it. And of course, part of the leak is the materials themselves that are being used in this training. And I'm looking at one of the slides. Heterosexism is bigotry. So they're equating just normal sexual relations between a biological male and a biological female as bigotry. Oh my gosh. Incredible. So they're being forced into this loyalty test. that essentially labels Christians as bigotry. That's what's going on here. Signed into law by, of course, Mr. Woke himself, pretty boy Gavin Newsom. Half an hour of middays after this break.
From theseabrook.com.
Come on. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
It's just like me, say to you, help me do, and help me true. And what I like for you to say is you'll come home to me each day. How you'll be my girl, that's what I want. Just you, sweet girl, not a front. It's just like me, I feel so good, and I fall so much in love with you. It's just like me.
That's Paul Revere and the Raiders there. Great tune. Kicks, my favorite tune by Paul Revere and the Raiders, where they're addressing the drug epidemic that really got its major boost, it seems like, in the 60s, when LSD and the psychedelic drugs were starting to become used on a more regular basis. And the tune Kicks is about that, where they're advising, sounds like a young lady to me, and according to the lyrics, to, you know, when you come down from that high, still got the same old problems. Doesn't really help you. Good advice. On the C Spire text line, talking about the 200 Democrats that voted against banning transgender surgery on minors. Getting them on the record is the point. Yeah, I agree, and I'm still not sure, though, man. In some of these districts, it seems like that's a popular position, a popular value and viewpoint that people should be able to.
Then those districts are literally filled with crazy people.
They are, but they believe they should be able to submit their children, subject them to really what is devastating medical treatment, and often with long-term, forever in your life, right? Medical problems are requiring a ton of money to deal with that, because you're going against nature. You're going against God, honestly. And so not only that, but there are numerous examples, seems more than not, of those that once they get to a certain point in life say, I sure do wish I wouldn't have done that. That I have mental problems, I have physical problems, I was confused, I didn't have anybody to guide me. Often they guide them in the other direction. Oh, yay, great, you want to, right? They call it love bombing. It's another dumb,
it's a form of
liberal
manipulation.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's disgusting to me that the
and those
Democrats
same
would vote
people
against
would tell
this.
a woman in a relationship to get out because it's a red flag if her partner were love bombing her.
That's totally true.
But it's totally fine to manipulate and convince children that they are somehow born in the wrong body.
Unbelievable.
I guess these same people would show up to their recovering alcoholic friend's birthday party with a six-pack.
It's a similar deal. Yeah. So they voted against it. Hard to believe, but they did. 200 Democrats in the House did so. Just happened. So Darren Jackson says, so does that mean that Gavin Newsom is a bigot? Because that's what the legislation we just mentioned to you that California passed, that they call it heterosexism is bigotry. That's one of the talking points in this training that they're requiring teachers and administrators to complete for elementary school students, which is just insane unto itself. Really something. Yeah, Jerry in Waynesboro sent us something you just told me about on the break. Apparently a crash, airport crash in North Carolina, and it turns out that it's a NASCAR driver. Greg, is it Biffle or Bifle, Rhino?
Yeah, it's Greg Biffle. Still no confirmed reports that he was on the plane. There were some unconfirmed reports by local media that it was him and his family on the plane, but the plane that crashed in North Carolina was owned by Greg Biffle.
Yeah.
And if that name sounds familiar from recent memory and you're not a NASCAR fan, it's because after Hurricane Helene, Greg Biffle in his helicopter flew thousands of hours of missions over western North Carolina to drop off supplies, pick people up, and do what he could with what he had as the Biden administration and FEMA left people to die.
Incredible. Mo says, Gerard, those drugs took many of our greatest. Just look at the 27 Club. Amen. You're right. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, right? I believe all 27, if I'm not mistaken. Considered part of the 27 Club. That's just my little commentary about our bumper song for this segment, Kicks, I was thinking about, by Paul Revere and the Raiders. That's not the one that Rhino played, but that's another famous Paul Revere tune from that era when there was a lot of crazy drug use with stuff that, you could easily overdose on. Oh, man, seeking the ultimate high, I guess, to the point that it just took their lives. You're right, Mose. And that's what that song, Kicks, is about. If you look at the lyrics, they're trying to advise someone, hey, don't do that. It's not good for you. Your life ain't going to change. You may think it's an escape, but nope, everything comes back as soon as you come off that high. Great point. Here in the state of Mississippi, something to pass on as well that's going on. There are lots of course, hearings occurring at the Capitol about various issues as those legislators prepare for the coming 2026 session. And Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd was on the program with Richard Cross yesterday, the morning show. She, of course, chairs universities and colleges over there in the Senate. And they are looking at ways, our lawmakers, of changing the funding formula for the institutions of higher learning to be more performance-based. This is an approach, a model that's been used in Texas, Tennessee, Florida. And it essentially rewards institutions with funding for graduating students, placing them in jobs with median wage earnings and helping high-need populations succeed. I've advocated for this for years, that, we throw all this money at a college education, but that doesn't really do any good. And then we tout the graduation and the academic sort of metrics, and that's fine, except what it's all about is getting a job and being productive and being self-sufficient and contributing to society. That's how we ought to reward, I believe, colleges and universities. And what that would do, of course, is cut out a lot of these dumb programs and majors and courses we have that don't really prepare one for gainful employment. But they sure are nice sources of living and income for the professors and the administrators in that. They can't do anything else and aren't marketable outside of that. That's harsh, maybe, callous, but it's the truth. We speak the truth here. So I like this idea. I would add a caveat to this, though, Rhino. We know that we have a so-called brain drain. We have an exodus of our graduates. I think we ought to add perhaps an additional incentive and maybe put more weight on they stay here and work, because we're paying our tax money now you pay tuition to supplement that and to combine those funds, taxpayer money, individual tuition funds for the college education to get the degrees. But how do we benefit as taxpayers in the state of Mississippi when those graduates leave? All we're really doing is creating some degree of economic activity while they're students here and paying the apparatus itself, which there's some, value in that, but not like when they stay here. I would just like to see us focus on that, and we'll give you an additional bonus. Now, I get it. Schools can't always control that. It doesn't matter. They take a more active interest in it. The way to approach that problem, and again, I got to give kudos to our governor who's hyper-focused on this, is we got to grow the economy and create knowledge worker jobs that hire these graduates here in Mississippi. Otherwise, they're just going to keep leaving for the jobs that they're prepared for, that they've been educated for, and they're going to go benefit the other states. So we paid for their education. The other states get the benefit of their work and their economic participation in the state's economy and whatever taxes they pay, et cetera. And, of course, all the sellers of goods and services that see them as a customer that benefit from that. So keep them here. I'd just like to see us add that to it as well. I think it'd be a good thing. But I am glad to see our legislature talking about this. I think this is going to be a key item of discussion. So thanks to Senator Boyd for pursuing this as well. And we're not treading new ground here. This has been done before, like we said, in other states, and I think it's a good model. Oh, man, what about AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Tucker Carlson used to love to call her Sandy from Westchester, because Westchester is one of the most affluent regions in the entire dang country. It's not far from New York City itself.
Yeah, she's getting pulled in two different directions. She's getting pulled towards running for Senate or waiting back and running for president.
And you probably have seen it by now. It's all over the news that a poll was conducted that shows her besting Vice President J.D. Vance as hypothetical presidential candidates, and she says, "I'm going to stomp him." Something to that effect when it came out. Wow. Coming right back, final segment.
Welcome back to
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
awesome on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You know you're the mastermind. Run, run, Rudolph. Randolph ain't too far behind. Run, run, Rudolph. Santa's gotta make it to town. Santa, make him hurry, tell him he
Yeah, man. AOC versus J.D. Vance. That's what it looks like. That's interesting that she came out and said, "I'm going to stomp him." That was her first response to learning about this poll that showed that she actually...
Gosh, that would be an entertaining debate.
Wouldn't it, though? Man, that's like a...
You just run circles around her.
That's like a super brain versus no brains. There's what that would be. Hollow head. There's a good question here. So on the C Spire text line, the 769. So I was just listening to the lottery payouts, and they said the cash payout is somewhere around $600 million for the Powerball. Where does the other $1.1 billion go if you still have to pay taxes of the $600 million? Not sure I totally understand the question, but I can certainly share what the current status is of the Powerball. That is the next drawing, by the way, Saturday, this coming Saturday, just a couple of days away. The jackpot's $1.27 billion.
I think what he's saying is the jackpot is over $1 billion, but the cash prize is $600 million.
Right, I get
What's
that.
The disparity?
Yeah, it's the time value of money. You take $600 million. So used to dealing with government figures. $600 million today, as opposed to $1.27 billion over an extended period of time. It's just the time value of money. So, and there literally are formulas to compute what's called the net present value of money and the future value of money. It's all financial calculations. But that's the bottom line is it's all computed on the same basis. Honestly, it's if we had to fund this $1.27 billion over a period of time, that would cost this much, or we can pay $600 million today, and that would cost this much, and they're basically equal actuarially and financially calculated. It's the same as a purse, for
and
example.
You'll pay taxes on either choice you make. If you take the $1 and change million in payments, you're going to pay taxes on those payments. If
Correct.
you take the lump sum, you're going to pay taxes on the lump sum.
And on the payments, it's obviously each year you have to include that on your tax return. Now, just so you know, the standard withholding when you redeem your prize is 24%. That's IRS guidance. You can request more if you think that's going to push you, and it would, depending on the size of the jackpot, into a higher bracket. Because 24% is not our highest effective rate. 37% is. Well, I think that kicks in at like the $600,000 a year point. So clearly, if you won this big thing, you're paying an effective 37% rate on everything over $600,000 in a year for a long time. And the same if you took $600 million today as a lump sum, they take out 24% of it. But when you pay Uncle Sam on your tax return, you're covered, right? It's called a safe harbor, but you're going to have to pay more taxes, 37% of it. For all that above $600,000, that's a bunch when it's $600 million. So, yeah, just good question. Want to pass that on. The next drawing, of course, Saturday, December 20th. And, yeah, actually, I should update it because it's now at $1.5 billion and $686 million. The figures I cited were the last drawing, which was last night. So we move on. Yeah, interesting. But it's on up there. It seems like we're getting more and more big jackpots. So Paul and Hernando says, but the announcer said it was going to be $600 billion. No, it's million. Before taxes. That is correct. It's $600 million before taxes if you take a lump sum. If you choose the lump sum option, Paul, if you were to win, or you can opt for the annuity, in which case it's $1.5 billion. I don't know how many years it is. I want to say 20 comes to mind. It may be 10. 20 is the number. It's in my head.
It's kind of like, I just went blank on his name. It's the Bobby Bonilla, Bobby Bonilla Day.
Yeah.
He took a lower salary while he was playing so that he would get paid over a prolonged period of time. It's kind of similar to that where you're taking less at once because you're only getting that first payment the first year, but you're getting paid more over an extended period of time versus if Bobby Bonilla had not set up his crazy payday deal and got paid big bucks when he was playing, he wouldn't have any afterwards.
Okay. Jerry in Waynesboro says it's over 30 years. You could be right. I don't know why 20 stuck in my head. But he says it's better to take the annuity, more money for a young person. Yeah, so the way to really approach that, Jerry, would be to you determine, okay, if I had this much money today, could I produce with just investing it, that's what I did with it, more money than the $1.5 million payout the lottery provides over that 30-year period. It's you and your investment versus the lottery and what it guarantees over the annuity.
But if you win it at 70,
yeah,
bit of a different calculation than if you win it at 35.
That's right. But you can name beneficiaries and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, gets a little weedy into the complicated. Wow, I'm tongue-tied. Out of here today. Back with you tomorrow. Stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.